lovely and darling viewers, it's Jen here at Check Her Joy, and this time I'm reviewing Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. So this is a young adult contemporary novel focusing on Leah, who is bi, so it's an LGBT book. It is a sequel to Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda and is set in the same high school and following the same group of friends. In fact, Simon and Leah are best buds. So if you haven't read Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, I suggest you start there first. Both these books are really cute and adorable, and I love Becky Albertalli's writing. So start there. I'll post a link to my review for Simon versus in the description below. So this book, and so this review will spoil what happens in Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda. So fair warning. This book takes place a year after Simon ended, and we get to catch up on all the characters that we love. We get to see Simon and his boyfriend Bran, who are now a couple, and they are totally cute. I love Simon and Bran. They are adorable. They feature heavily in this book, to the point that sometimes it feels like it's more about Simon and Bran than it is about Leah, especially at the beginning of the book. It seems almost like too much of Leah's life is focused on Simon, but I also appreciated getting to catch up with these guys and getting to see Nick and Abby and Garrett and even Nora and everybody, even Taylor and Martin. It was good to see what they're up to, even though they weren't my favorite characters. But the book mostly focuses on Leah, and she's bisexual, but she hasn't told anybody, and she's struggling with why she hasn't, because her best friend Simon has come out as being gay, and he's in this relationship with Bram, and it's not perfect, but, like, it's not so awful that there's any reason why she hasn't come out. She just doesn't feel it, and she feels a little guilty for not coming out also. It's also a bit weird because in Simon versus, Leah got annoyed at Simon for not coming out, and then she won't do it herself. There is one person who does know that Leah is bi, though, and it's her mom. Leah's mom had Leah when she was in high school, so they're not that far apart in age. Her mom's still young enough to get what it's like to be a teenager and remember that, and they're good friends, and her mom's super invested in Leah's life and what's going on with her and the band, and that stuff's really cool. But also sometimes it's like their relationship is strained, and we get to see it from Leah's perspective, and we definitely get inside Leah's head, and so we see the stress of, like, her mom always wanting to know what's going on and always wanting to be there, and Leah just not always wanting to share. The mom is also dating somebody, and it's getting really serious, and Leah feels super uncomfortable. She's got issues with the fact that her mom is dating in the first place, and this is not her dad. And then she's still hurt by the fact that her father just left. And so Leah doesn't trust that anybody else, won't also leave, either leaving her mom or leaving Leah. And then the guy, Wells, he's older and he's richer, and that's also putting different stresses and dynamics into this relationship. Like, he offers to pay for Leah's prom dress, and she's not really comfortable with that. Like, it would be one thing if her mom paid for her prom dress, but having this other guy pay that much money seems like it's crossing a line that she's not okay with. I did have some issues with Leah's relationship with her mom, like the fact that Leah swears and talks back to her mom and challenges her and criticizes her in a way that I never would have gotten away with as a kid. Also, fair warning that Leah has a very colorful vocabulary and swears a lot. So if you're not a big fan of that kind of vocabulary, maybe skip this book. Going back to Leah as a person, I love the fact that she's sarcastic and she's moody and she doesn't have all her stuff together. Sometimes she comes off as this really strong, awesome badass, but then she's also got tons of insecurities that she's hiding from everybody. She's insecure about the fact that she doesn't have as much as everybody else, especially with prom coming up, and that's pretty expensive, and worrying about how she's going to pay for everything and worrying about college. Like, her friends are all planning on going on these college tours, and she's like, I don't know if we can afford that to go look at all these schools. I don't know if my mom can get time off of work. I feel awkward if I go with somebody else. And so she just doesn't feel like she has everything that and like her friends, like it's the money's an issue for her. Um, Leah's also a chubby character, which I loved. She's got curves and she's pretty confident about them, but then she also knows that the rest of the world doesn't necessarily see her the same. Um, so this book deals with that, but on the whole, Leah's pretty positive about how she looks, which I appreciated. Sometimes Leah has trouble with the friends and she's awkward with interpersonal relationships, especially with the dating thing. So she's got this guy, Garrett, who has a crush on her and is pursuing her, and she doesn't feel that way about him, but also he's not a bad guy. He's pretty good looking. She could do worse, and so she's contemplating whether or not she should just give Garrett a chance. Maybe he would surprise her. But she also doesn't quite get the dating thing, and she kind of sort of knows what's supposed to happen, but also some of it just feels awkward to her. Okay, and then I don't think it's really a spoiler that Leah has a giant crush on Abby that she brings up several times during this book, and she's just pining after her. And Abby's with Nick, and I kind of just feel bad for Leah because she kind of just crushes on everybody. She talks about how she used to have a crush on Simon, and then she had a crush on Nick, and now she's got a crush on Abby. But this crush on Abby is something else, like completely, like this is the big time. And she doesn't know how to be around Abby. She doesn't know how to be around Abby when she's with Nick. And so she's feeling distant from particularly Abby, but also feeling distant from Nick, doesn't know how to be around him either. She doesn't feel like she can talk to Simon, so now she's got the stress on her relationship with Simon, and it's just a huge mess because she doesn't know what to deal with her feelings. And she doesn't feel brave enough, I guess, to tell anybody. Like, nobody but her mom knows that she's got a crush on Abby. The relationship stuff in here is complicated, and it's a mess. And it's not straightforward romance. And I feel like that's probably what most high school relationships are like. As opposed to Simon and Bram's, like, cutesy, adorable over email, starting to, like, crush on each other, slowly build thing, perfect ending. Leah's relationships, I think, are more realistic, which I appreciated about this book. It does, however, get super awkward at times. Leah's pessimism sometimes gets a bit too much. I think I still gave this the 5 stars on Goodreads, but on the whole, I feel like this is more like a 4.5 stars, just because sometimes it gets awkward and unbearable and a little hard to read. And Leah gets too much inside her head and kind of just too much self-pitying, which isn't terribly fun to read. Like Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, I super loved. I appreciated Simon start to finish. This one's got a different feel to it. Also, there's a bit too much emphasis on Simon and Bram at the beginning, and I felt like it really wasn't Leah's story at that point. And so it's not until we get about halfway through this book that it feels like it's more about Leah. There's plenty of nerdy references in here that makes it feel like a contemporary, like an actual contemporary high school. We have references to Harry Potter and shipping and the Harry and Draco fanfics and anime and other young adult literature. It's all in here. I mentioned Simon quotes Hamilton in one of his classes. Like, it's great. I appreciated that. My geek self was loving this book. Okay, I think that's all I can tell you guys about this book. That is not majorly spoilery. The Abby thing might have been a little bit spoilery, sorry. But if you haven't read this book already, I super recommend it. I really love Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. It's also set in the same universe as The Upside of Unrequited, but you don't need to read The Upside of Unrequited to understand what's happening in Leah because it focuses on a different set of characters. Yeah, so I do recommend this. And now I'm going to go into a spoilery section, so if you haven't read this yet, see ya! Peace out. I love you guys, and keep reading. Bye! Okay. Bram and Simon are really adorable in this book. It is one of my favorite parts of this. I love their relationship. I love getting to watch them progress also. Like, they're happy and super lovey-dovey, but not too over the top. Like, Leah makes a comment about how they look at each other with such longing, but they aren't overly demonstrative in public just because of they're in Atlanta. And they're still a gay couple, so they don't feel like they're not like all over each other, but like you'll see them holding hands, and you'll see them, what Leah describes as eye fucking, and it's adorable, and I love it, and I appreciate the two of them. I love Bram trying to find out about Simon's past and asking Leah for help in his promposal, and then Simon rewatching the promposal over and over. So I loved the whole promposal, from Bram trying to get Leah's help to find out how he should set it up and try to find out more about Simon's past, and middle school Simon and how dorky he was. And then we get to see the actual promposal, and then Simon rewatching it like on repeat and just totally having prom fever, which is just absolutely adorable. So I love that. But then we've also got the later part where they're considering which colleges they're going to go to, and really the stress that that brings to their relationship. Simon doesn't want to go to the same school that Bram does. Like, they don't even want to go to the same city. Simon's considering a school in New York that he got into, where Bram is. But then the school that he really wants to go to, I think it's in Philadelphia or something. So they're considering having this long-distance relationship. And it's especially complicated because Abby and Nick broke up because Abby didn't want to do the long-distance relationship. And so it is forcing Simon and Bram to consider whether that is what they want, and just really seeing Simon struggle with, like, how do I tell him? And I kind of felt a little cheated that we didn't get to see that. We get to see so much else of their relationship, but we don't get to see this conversation that Simon has with Bram about going to a different school. We're just told afterwards that they had it, and here's what they decided, and it feels strange. I do like the fact that the mascot for Simon's school is a black squirrel, because my sister goes to Kent State, and their unofficial mascot is a black squirrel, which I thought was kind of adorable. I was like, oh, they're kind of cute. Leah's relationship with Abby, I was not necessarily in love with. Like, I felt for Leah, and I definitely got that she was super crushing on Abby, but I was never sure that Abby also liked Leah that way. Their relationship is a mess, start to finish. Even in Simon Versus, we have them being kind of close, and then Abby starts dating Nick, and then Leah and Abby become, like, barely even friends. Like, they're only talking to each other because they're both friends with Nick and Simon. Like, otherwise they would not be hanging out together. And then they start getting close again, but it's still so messed up. And then Abby starts progressing towards them having a relationship. Like, she wants to make out with Leah, and then she's joking about, like, oh, it doesn't mean anything. What are you talking about? And Leah's like, it means something to me. It means a lot to me. I am not experimenting with you. I have feelings for you. And it's so awkward in the way that Abby is just kind of messing with Leah's head in a way. So I also did not enjoy that part of the book at all. I didn't like Abby as a person. I kind of hate her in this book. And they end up together, and I'm like, I don't know that I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not sure that they really should end up together. So I wasn't sold on that relationship. It also felt really strained the way that Leah is kind of just letting Garrett imagine that they're closer than they are. Like, letting him believe that she was at the soccer game that she wasn't at, or letting him believe that she's there for him, and she asks him out to prom, and he's so excited, and asking him to prom wasn't that bad, but, like, she lets him believe it's an actual date and that there's a chance, rather than being like, hey, I like somebody else, and that's not gonna happen. So I feel so bad for Garrett. Yeah, Leah did not handle that well, and okay, that's realistic to what high school would be, but also it kind of made me not like Leah too much. I mean, she's still one of my favorite characters, but also she's not perfect, I guess. She disappointed me. Also, Leah calls out Abby on how Abby identifies as an orientation, which felt uncomfortable to me. Like, Abby's like, oh, I'm straight, but, like, you're making me question that. And Leah wants her so badly to define herself as bisexual that she just forces Abby to take on this sexual orientation that maybe Abby's not comfortable with. Like, I didn't really like that part of this. Like, for me, sexual orientation isn't as well defined as just you're either straight or you're gay or you're bisexual or you're asexual, because there is like spectrums. And I don't know. If Abby's telling you that she doesn't like girls except for you, then maybe you should not force her to define herself as being bisexual. It seems strange to me. So that part felt a little uncomfortable to me. And Leah becomes a little too obsessed with um, defining herself by her sexual orientation and other people defining themselves, particularly Abby. So that felt strange and strained, and it felt wrong to me. I appreciated the fact that Leah called Morgan out on her racist comment, where she says that she thinks Abby got into this school and Morgan didn't because Abby's black. And I feel like she was right to call her out on that and make Morgan think about it, but then Leah doesn't want anything to do with Morgan after that point, and that's also one of the parts of this book that was kind of uncomfortable. Like, eventually you should maybe talk to her, and she does by the end of the book, but it felt morally so wrong to me, and it wasn't the choice I would have made, so I wasn't behind it completely. Not what I would have done. Like, Morgan definitely is showing remorse way before Leah decides she's actually going to talk to her, and really Leah's forced to talk to Morgan. We also have Nora just being awesome in this. I love Simon's little sister. She's awesome. She's in the band and she knows who she is, and she starts going out with Cal, who asked Simon out in the last book, but Simon refused him. And so now he's dating Nora, and I think it's kind of cute and adorable. And I love Nora's just like self-assured, like she knows who she is and she's just gonna go for it. And I love that about her. Like, she's like, we're dating. It's not serious, but like we're kind of hanging out and stuff, and that's cool. And we're gonna go to prom together. And so I appreciated seeing Nora in this, in the band and in theater, and doing her own thing at prom. Okay. Also, Nick is considerably more awful in this book. Like, I don't remember him being that bad in Simon Versus, but he's so needy and clingy, and Abby doesn't want to be with him, and she wants to break up, and he completely loses it once they break up. So even before the breakup, he's so clingy that it's uncomfortable, and then after the breakup, he's making it so awkward for everybody else around him, and he's just moping, and like, I'm seriously afraid that Nick is like suicidal. Like, this is not fun to read, and I enjoyed him more in Simon than I did in Leah's book, so that's not the best. Also, his whole thing with Taylor, where she's flirting with him, and then he decides to just like start making out with her on the middle of the prom floor, right in front of Abby, to make Abby jealous. But like, he doesn't seem to actually want Taylor. It's all kinds of wrong and messed up, and I didn't like it. And not like Nick in this book. He's not my favorite. And then the ending of this book with the kind of epilogue where we fast forward to Leah and Abby at college, and they're just peacefully laying in the grass, and they're a couple, and we catch up with what Simon and Bram are like. I don't know, I felt weird about that epilogue. Like, I guess I wanted a third book that followed them in college, and this felt like this is what we're getting instead of that. That felt weird. It also felt kind of inorganic to the story. Leah's life is such a mess, and then she hooks up with Abby, and it's all good all of a sudden, and that feels weird. Like, their relationship was not straightforward at any point. That they would just suddenly be happy and perfect together seems a bit weird. Like, it feels like there should be more growth within the two of them, and then it's not just going to be perfect like that. I mean, there probably is stuff happening before that point that we didn't see, but it felt weird. Like, it just tried too hard to just tie everything up to this pretty bow, and just, I wasn't feeling it. So, just wasn't a fan of the ending too much. But despite all these criticisms that I just had, I really did enjoy this book. There are tons of super, super cute moments in here. I loved Leah finding like the perfect prom dress, and her going to Target with Wells, and he's like, "Can I help you? Like, what do you need?" And she's like, "I need a bra," but like, she doesn't want to tell him that. And then when she finally does, she's like, "Oh my god." And then he buys her the cat purse, which is just like adorable. Like, there are tons of sweet moments in here. The promposal was definitely one of my favorites. And then we have like Abby and Leah out on the bridge, and she's like, messages her on Tumblr, like, can you draw two girls kissing? And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Abby and Leah did have some cute moments in the relationship that I liked, but there's just so much messed up stuff happening in there that it doesn't feel like it's a healthy relationship, and so I'm kind of not rooting for it. I guess I want Leah and Abby to have relationships that are easier and less stressful for them than this one is. And maybe it's fine once they sort out all their crap, but they haven't gotten to that point yet, in my opinion, so it still feels strange. I did think it was super cute, guys. I did. I promise. That may not have come out in this review, but it was totally adorable. A lot of good stuff really did happen in this book. I mean, this review may have seemed a bit down on it, but I really did enjoy it. I loved watching Taylor grow and watching Martin become somebody bearable, and Garrett trying to pick their prom place to eat dinner at, and he thinks it's the American Grill, but actually he books them for the American Girl Bistro. And then how they just kind of go along with it. Like, everybody except Nick kind of has fun with it in the end, and it just works out. And, like, honestly, I would love to go to the American Girl Bistro all dressed up and, like, formal wear. That would be amazing. And I love everybody's reactions to it. From, like, a few of the girls being like, oh, I had these dolls when I was little. And the guys going and just renting them to eat with them. I'm like, okay, guys, way to roll with the flow. I do love this group of friends together and how they mesh. Oh, the April Fool's joke where Abby takes Simon's phone and then reprograms it so that it keeps spurting out 50 Shades of Grey quotes. That was hilarious. It felt a little awkward, but also really funny at the same time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Simon. I love it. I love the little things in this book too. Like, Abby reading Harry Potter for the first time, and then she, like, enjoys it. Like, she's been like, not my thing, and then she finally starts reading. She's like, okay, this is kind of cool. And stuff like Leah wearing her Hogwarts sweater, and I adore it so much. Sorry, I just didn't take notes, so now I'm trying to remember what happened in this book. It was adorable, so you guys will appreciate that I did like this book. For the most part, I loved Abby and Leah going on the college tour and checking out the school, and they run into the person who's non-binary and uses they as their pronoun, and how Leah describes that as feeling like a hug. Like, even though that's not her identity, and even though she's bi and it's not the same as being non-binary, if there are people at the school who are okay with that and can just casually use the pronouns correctly, then she feels like she could be accepted and wanted at that school also. So I loved that. I like the hint at her playing in the band and her auditioning for the band at that party. That was so cool too. So there were just so many minor moments in here, from when Leah decides she's finally going to start taking commissions and just really being okay with some of the things that she wasn't okay with before. So there is character growth in here, but Leah's still kind of a mess at the end of this book too, which I also like the fact that she didn't just suddenly have all her problems solved by the end of senior year of high school. That she doesn't have it all together going into college, because who really honestly does? So this book felt realistic, but also really fun. So ta-da! There is my review and opinions and feels on Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. Let me know in the comments below if you've read this book and what you thought of it. How do you feel about the Simon verse? And let me know how you feel about the Simon verse. If it is spoilery, though, kind of be nice to everybody else and post a spoiler warning at the beginning. Just be good to each other. So, peace out. I love you guys, and keep reading. Bye.